Hey, welcome everybody to the Daily AI Show. Today is January 30th, 2026, and this is show episode, however you want to look at it, 650. So mini milestone, but we always like to point out when we hit those 50 marks. Yeah, we've come live, me, Beth, and Andy, as well as the rest of the DOS crew. Have been on most of these shows. At least the three of us probably have on most of the shows. Well over 90%, I would say, right? Do you guys both feel like we've individually been on over 90%?
I think there's probably only 10 or so shows that I've missed in the entire sequence.
Wow, that's better. That's definitely better than me. I've definitely missed little parts here and there. Beth, same, like where we've had little, have to step aways and stuff. Definitely more than 10 for me, but solidly above the 90% line, I feel like, over those 650 for sure. That's a lot of talking about AI. But it's, there's a good reason why we do this. And I look at the news today and I go, yeah, every day you have to talk about this 5 days a week because of the way that AI moves. And that was sort of like, obviously, the start to this show, right, guys, was just like, hey, if we force ourselves to have a conversation about this, if we decide to get up and have the consistency of getting on a call with each other, whether there's a whole audience listening or not, the idea is that we would feel like we were staying up on it. And thank God for this show, because this stuff is hard enough to keep up with. I can't imagine doing it on my own and not having the benefit of all of our wonderful people that are in the chat and follow us, and all the good people out there that are listening right now in one way or the other, but as well as you guys. So 650 today, onwards and upwards. All right, let's get into it. By the way, Andy, Beth, I'm Brian. So that's what you got for the show today. I know Andy and Beth, you guys have been holding it down at least yesterday. And I saw Ann and Jyunmi were on the show the other day while I was out as well. So I'm not as up to date on where we are with all the news, but I did see yesterday, you guys might have already talked about it, but Claude releases complete guide to building skills and optimizing workflow integrations for users. It's rolls right off the tongue. Did you guys talk about that at all yesterday?
We did not. We saved it for you. We saw it. We understood it. We just thought that's Brian's wheelhouse.
It is well timed as things go. So basically, there's a little blog here on claude.com/blog. So you can find it there. It says skills that let you teach Claude your workflows once and apply them consistently. This guide covers how to build, test, and distribute them, whether for standalone workflows or MCP enhanced integrations. Since launching skills in October, we've seen strong interest from developers who want Claude to follow specific workflows consistently, power users automating repeatable tasks like document creation or research processes. Yeah, like all of the above, all of this. It says, what are you going to learn? You're going to learn the technical requirements and best practices for skill structure. Love it. Patterns for standalone skills and MCP enhanced workflows. Yep. Check, need that. Patterns that have worked across different use cases. Well, that's amazing. That just levels everybody up. How to test, iterate, and distribute your skills. Awesome. So it says, who's it for? Devs, power users, teams looking to standardize how Claude works across the organization. That's me. That's the guy. I got that next. I'm working on a different thing right now with Claude Code, but I 100% in my new role with Scaled as I'm rolling into that slowly in Feb. I am that last bullet. Teams looking to standardize how Claude works across their organization. So I'll be diving into that. So then you can download the guide there. I haven't looked at the guide yet. Don't know how long it is, but I fully intend to give this guide into my current Claude project. And there's a little pivot there that I'll just talk about. I haven't been on the show for 2 days, but I've been talking about stupid tax. And stupid tax comes from Dave Ramsey. From anybody, I'm sure he didn't invent that term, but if you know Dave Ramsey, the financial advisor, he had a show, or still has a show. And my wife and I, like a lot of young couples, sort of followed his framework early on to help us get rid of that last of that debt that was pre-marriage, and really set us up for, honestly, if I was to say one impactful book in my life, Total Money Makeover, I believe is the name of that book. It probably has multiple editions over the years. We read it 20 years ago, and it really set us up for success. Anyway, he would talk about stupid tax, which is anything really in your life where you go, hey Dave, I bought a car, but I leased it, and now I have a $600 a month payment, and I also just lost my job. And he's like, well, we all pay stupid tax, right? So that's the way I sort of feel with Claude sometimes. Is there's things that lessons learned, and I go, all right, learned, moving on. And then there's things that I feel like are stupid tax, which is like, Brian, you should have been on top of that before it happened, and now you're paying the fee for it. So for me, and I'll just give this out to anybody else because I didn't know this, I thought I was being smart by setting up Claude local files in a OneDrive. Makes sense, right? Hey, if it's in OneDrive, it doesn't matter what computer I'm on. I'm able to do both, right? Well, I only found out yesterday, 2 solid weeks into this process, that OneDrive, it has a known problem with corrupting GitHub repos. Well, that's not great. So that has caused a waterfall of problems inside of working with Claude Code. I don't know how I would have known that. That's not necessarily a stupid tax. What is a stupid tax is what followed after that, because then as I started to try to unravel this problem, I noticed that I wasn't doing a good enough job cleaning up after myself. Yes, update the Claude code, the MD file, right? Yes, update my RAL files. Yes, send it to GitHub so you guys can see the latest pushes. All of that stuff I was doing. But what I wasn't paying attention till I saw it today was that OneDrive folder had ballooned to 16 gigabytes. That's not a small drive. It had 50,000 files in it. 50,000. Now, do I need 50,000 to run this project right now? No. Those are temp files. Those are files from past phases of the build that are no longer relevant. Multiple times, Claude has said, it annoys me, but it'll say, like, I'll say, give me a prompt so I can continue signing. It goes, great, I put it in this file. I'm like, I'm not going to look for that file. Just give me the prompt, but it created the file anyway, and so it loves making some text files and putting those aside, 50,000 of those. So I had to now have Claude Code stop where I am. Hey, you need to go look at this new file folder that we've started that's not corrupted, that's linking to on my C drive, that's linking to the GitHub, but also all these other files that are in the OneDrive that had everything from my Superbase API configurations and things that I actually need. And so now I'm having to do this whole marrying of it. It's not great. It's not fun. It's sort of a got to go 2 steps backward to go forward faster type of deal. It's necessary, but I just figured for anybody else that's starting out with Claude Code and perhaps is thinking like me, hey, I might want to work on more than one computer. I will just use OneDrive. Do not do that. It does not work well with GitHub. So lessons learned from Brian. Don't do that. What do you guys have as far as news and stuff like that coming up today?
I'll jump in with some Moltbot update. So, Moltbot is the topic of the week, and was Claudebot on the weekend. Now it's Moltbot, and one of the things that came out of our discussion about Moltbot recently is that a lot of people are buying Apple Mac Minis to run Moltbot, so that you have a clean, separate machine. And this is in part to resist the security issues that occur when you give an agent access to the internet and to your files. So a recommendation or an approach that can minimize that exposure is to actually run it on a separate machine. So don't put it on your primary work machine. Put it on a $500 Mac Mini over here on the side and have that as your assistant. Well, in order to follow on with the incredible viral flare that Moltbot has created, Cloudflare, you see what I did there? Cloudflare has released Moltworker. Now, what is Cloudflare? For those of you who don't know, Cloudflare is a content delivery network. It has data centers around the world. It has provisioning of different services. And they're now increasingly providing products out there. But what they've done is they've jumped on hey, you can buy a Mac Mini and run your own personal assistant locally. But as Karl, our colleague, said when he initially did it, you can also set up a server in the cloud and run it, and the cost is going to be around $5 a month. Well, Cloudflare's productized that. So they released Moltworker, an open source middleware that allows users to run Moltbot on Cloudflare's developer platform for about $5 a month. So the thing that's really distinctive about that is Cloudflare has provisioned this specifically for this kind of, enclose the agent in this cloud-based operation and provide security all around it. So you can kind of do this. It's a very low barrier to entry for implementing the personal agent that Moltbot is, and it's wrapped in self-hosted agent tooling systems, so that it's already built in with all the security protections that you need. So for $5 a month, I might just go, set up a Cloudflare account. Cloudflare accounts typically are purchased by enterprise in order to express their website around the world in an efficient manner and with high security.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm going to put this in the chat for anybody that wants to look at this now. This was from Matt Wolf. I'm just going to put it in here now. Wolf, Moltbot, virtual private server, right? VPS build. And so this was a couple days ago, it was 3 days ago, and he walked step by step through setting up a virtual private server. Now, it's not Cloudflare. It appears to me that you could do something similar, obviously. But I wanted to just put that in there because I know that is, I saw a couple other Claire View, I think she said on TikTok, said it's not a particularly easy process to set up Moltbot, and that people have had effort. Matt's whole video was like, "Hey, I've looked through all these how-to videos on TikTok, on X, and this is how I did it." And he walks you through it. I have not personally done it because I don't want to get sidetracked with some new shiny object right now. So I'm purposely avoiding like all the fun that sounds like people are having. But it does bring up a good point, Andy, that I did see that with the Mac Minis and the used cost drove up. Number one, Mac Mini, I mean, they're great. Don't get me wrong. But you can find similar type small portable, look very similar to Mac Minis that are PC. And you can find those on Amazon for oftentimes cheaper. So I'd imagine some of those, depending on specs, would also handle that. But to me, it sounded like the obvious answer was a virtual private server like Matt was talking about, or now what you're talking about with Cloudflare, that you don't actually need to have, I mean, it's great, but you don't have to have a Mac Mini. But that brings up another question for you guys. Did you guys talk about this? Like, did you see, at least I saw that like Claude was now with their max plans restricting or kicking people out or whatever for using Moltbot. And I'm guessing, without knowing more about this, that had to do with just the volume of back and forth data that was being pushed using a tool like that. So now there's like above and beyond the name changing, which again, that was dumb, but probably strategically market wise, good idea, but dumb. That they're saying like, oh no, you're leaning on our Claude models, and we're now like restricting you if we see you using like Moltbot or whatever. So now I'm curious what you guys know about this, if anything. Like, it sounds to me like there's even maybe some more problems here. If somebody was to try to do a Moltbot, if they were using the Anthropic models, that they perhaps might be running into some issues, even if they did have a max plan at $100 or $200 a month.
I think this is one of those places where this is really an experienced developer project that is made to look like, because it blew up so fast, and said it like they were offline, they were not doing anything, and even they heard about Moltbot, right? Like they weren't actively trying to do AI things. Or they heard about Cloudbot. It wasn't Moltbot then. So I think that this is a dev project that people are getting in over their heads. As a dev, you would automatically add wait times for something that you were giving autonomous, like, yep, hit this as many times as you can, because everyone is going to restrict you, right? Like, you can't hit Hacker News without a little bit of a delay. If you're like 50, like bum, 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 Hacker's going to look at that as like a denial of service or something and restrict that. I think we're hearing about it because it is Claudebot and it was such a big thing. And Claude said, don't use our name. And now this is a problem too. Like, that creates the environment around the story. But I don't think that this is an unusual thing. And if you do not know what I'm talking about in terms of adding delays, don't set something to do something over and over and over again unless you own the thing that it's going to.
You're pinging, yeah.
right?
It,
Or
it is.
engaging and saying, give me back JSON information, right? I think that it is likely that that depending on what your Ralph Wiggum task is, that could also be something. I mean, if it's just like, hey, did you finish this file? Did you finish this file? Oh, good, this time you did. That's not a problem. If it's like, go here and download up to 100 of the files, boom,
Right.
downloaded, boom, downloaded, like those kinds of things.
Yeah.
There are patterns that that internet protections look for, and that's one you're like tipping into that. So
let me ask you guys, the conundrum that I have coming up tomorrow morning that's coming out is sort of around AI literacy and sort of this slippery slope of how do you keep up? This is sort of where it's at without getting into. It's a great episode, by the way. I highly recommend it. That'll come out tomorrow on our podcast platforms because it's just audio. But my point to bringing that up is, I think people going in cautiously and playing with Moltbot in its current form, or let's say Claude Code in the terminal versus the desktop, right? It does remind me of being a kid and playing on DOS prompts and learning how to pull up bulletin board systems. And, it would be hard for me at 40, almost 48 to trace back and say, oh, those early days of having to type in line commands to get and dial up individual phone numbers, local phone numbers from a bulletin board system, a BBS system, to see what was the very, very early days of websites, right? In ANSI Green, that's all they were. I'm talking about like early 90s when I was doing this. I can see the direct path to today and how I'm able to look at stuff. I don't know. Probably not, right? It would be really hard for me to draw that line. But is there value going back to the AI literacy thing? Let's say somebody gets in and they poke around a little bit, but they don't really get far with Moltbot, but they see a thing or two and they're interested in whatever. Ultimately, would we call that like a valued upskilling? Even if they never like deployed it or made it a thing, or it didn't become their personal assistant, or all these wild claims that people have, a la the Jarvises of N8N from a year ago, right? Look at this thing; it does everything, and it breaks immediately, and we all know that. But it looks good on a YouTube video, or a TikTok short, or whatever YouTube short. Anyway, my point is, or my question to you guys is this net positive? Having people go in and tinker, because it's going to help them in the future for when Claude inevitably comes out, and probably OpenAI and others come out with something that is basically Moltbot, but just in the Anthropic system or the OpenAI system through their codecs, or maybe Gemini does something through anti-gravity or some similarity to that. Is this good? Or is it a waste of time because we know something kinder, gentler, easier to follow with a better UI UX is going to come out, as we saw with Cowork?
Well, I think there's definitely a weighting equation value here that you have to calculate, because if you wait a little bit longer, there'll be a version of this that's easier to implement. But to understand the distinctions across the different agents that are out there, whether cloud-based agents or local, and I think Moltbot is really part of this move that's driving towards the edge AI world, where you have local AI running on a local machine. And that confers some privacy advantages and security advantages if it's architected well, and as distinct from sending all of your information to the cloud, for example, and worrying about whether the model is training on that information that you're sending to them. And how do I even configure the cloud-based AI service in such a way that it doesn't take any of the information that I add as files and or in my chat, pasting information in there? How do I ensure that that's not going there? Because that's not an obvious part of the UI that you're working with when you're using an AI. I think that tinkering or just even attempting gives you an understanding about how different Moltbot is from alternative agents out there. One of the agents that I'm very familiar with right now that's much more user friendly and packaged up in a nice way is GenSpark. You don't have to think about anything other than maybe connecting it to your G drive and connecting it, to your, other applications, whether Notion or Obsidian, etc. That's a simpler approach to articulating an agent. But if you go through the process, and it's not rocket science, but it is a complex process, whether you're trying to put Claude Code on your machine and start to use it effectively, or you're putting Moltbot on your machine and starting to use it effectively, you're learning a lot in that process. You create concept space in your mind that has these distinctions now clear and present in your understanding of how we're working with machines now, which is very different from the world of browser-based interactions with the web.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to clarify something that I think you implied when you started that, which is that the Moltbot system runs on your local hardware, but you can attach it to any API. And a bunch of people who are doing this are not actually going to install Kimi 2.5 or those kinds of things on their local machine. And if you choose that the AI that you're going to use is through your Claude account or your Codex ChatGPT account, then it is then you are accessing things, right? You are still giving access to something outside of your system.
What a great illustration of how even deliberating on how to configure your Moltbot, whether with a local model or with a cloud model, gives you a better sort of architectural diagram in your mind of what's really happening with AI, right? There's your machine, there's the cloud, there's all these other services that you're going to access, and how do you map all that in your understanding in order to be really fluent with AI models.
And my yes. So I think to Brian's question, I think it depends how much of a tinkerer you are. I think there are a bunch of people who were like, oh, cool. What they heard was buy a Mac Mini, give it a task, go to bed, and when you get up, it's done.
It built a business for you,
right? Yes, right before you went to bed, it asked for your Google password because he's going to need to put some things in various places. And then it turned out it could log in every freaking place with your Google password, right?
Well, let me add that one of the things about tinkering with AI now is you have AI as an assistant to help you with your tinkering. So I'd be frankly quite lost, or at least a lot slower about this process, if I didn't have Claude and or Gemini over my shoulder, me giving it questions and asking it to tell me expressly how to do this setup. And that's really an advantage.
Which is again, how are they tinkering? Like, this is absolutely, if you've had your if you wanted to build a robot in the past, like, cool, there's a bot. I will find that because I thought it was very cool. It's a tiny little robot, no face. It's basically a ball balancer, right? And it's a kit for $150. Like, if that's interesting to you, or you're, I don't know, you had a chemistry set or something, and you want to engage in this kind of stuff, absolutely do it. And do it with AI watching what you're doing and helping you. If you thought this was a really excellent way to get stuff done without having to pay attention to it, don't. Nope. This is not the path for you. Anthropic Cowork probably also isn't the path, but we're getting closer to that being an actual assistant.
I agree with you. I agree. All right. Well, I know it took a little bit of a detour there. I was just curious what you guys thought, because it's sort of been on my mind. And like I said, I was working on the Conundrum, and again, the Conundrums go out on Saturday mornings for anybody that's never listened to them. You won't find them on YouTube anymore because it's just not visual. It wasn't really working there. They're just audio, but Yeah, again, go listen to that one. Also, I will say, listen to it because, I do these every week. And so I hear actual improvements in the podcast side of the audio previews that you get out of Notebook LM. And this one is particularly interesting because of my training data. I will not say because of something that's net different about Notebook LM, but it is fun to listen to AI co-hosts. Maybe you think it is. Maybe you think it's dystopian, but it's fun to listen to them go, "Hey, this just happened, 2 days ago," and then they're like, and then on the 27th we had this, but on December 1st we had this, and like we're just 3 days later, and I was like, "Oh, that was in the training data, but it's a slippery thing. Like you hear it and you're like, oh my, it sounds so natural now, and depending on the data it has, it comes across very, very smooth. So I hear the little changes that Google or whoever's behind Notebook LM are making on that team, and it consistently gets better and better. I'm always really impressed with it. So go check out that episode tomorrow. It'll drop at those go out at 10 a.m. on Saturdays, and then the newsletters go out at 8 a.m. on Sundays. So if you want to see all the things that are outside the show, and then just to wrap it up, since we're talking about it, you can always join us in our community, the Daily AI Show community.com. That'll take you to a sign up for a Slack community. It's free, just like the newsletter, just like the Conundrum episodes, just like this show. Doesn't cost you a penny. It's just there to help you move through your own AI journey, whether that be Moltbot or because you're quite literally just starting out with your first AI chatbot, and that's fine too. Speaking of chatbots, I will throw this out as a quick news story that, what did I see? That OpenAI is going to retire GPT-4o, 4.1, 4.1 mini, O4 mini from ChatGPT in February 2026. And I do know some people that'll be upset about that. That still really, really love 4o. That's going to cause some rufflings. I think at this point, I haven't gone back to any of those models in quite some time, so it's not going to have any impact on me. 5.2 I find to be, generally speaking, much more advanced in all areas. But I do know there's some people who, like just the way the nuances of conversation were in 4.0. We saw this with OpenAI when they tried to rip the Band-Aid off real early a couple months ago. And they said, we'll put it back. That's our mistake. But they're going to depreciate this. And I think you kind of have to. You can't keep all of these going all the time. So there has to be some point where you go, you know what, we're not supporting that anymore, and we're going to pull it. So that seems like it's going to happen, February is 2 days from now. So very soon.
Isn't it interesting that it's not so many months ago that we were all like tittering about, GPT-5 is going to drop soon.
You're right.
We were waiting for GPT-5 to come out. And it did come out, and it was tuned in such a way that it was disappointing to many people who had become accustomed to 4.0. But then 5.2, this sort of mini improvement step, really made a huge difference. It was a dramatic improvement on the complaint spaces around 5. And now 5.2 is really a general application frontier model that does everything very well.
I think what makes this potentially possible, and I'll be interested to see if we see the nope, 4.0 is my ride or die. I told you last time, don't take it away from me. Mm-hmm. And now you're trying to do it again. But between those times, 5.2 added, or maybe just on all the models, it added personalities. How do you want it to talk to you? Right. So you could get 5.2 to be really supportive, like cheerleader, mm-hmm. or buddy, or professional mentor, or all those things. So I'm thinking that may be part of why they're thinking that this will not be as big a problem, because we let you choose how friendly you wanted it to be. Please don't.
Basically, right? Yeah. Here's the other thing too. I mean, this goes for all models. It's not uncommon to see more and more open source models that are getting smaller and almost capable. I mean, there's models that can run on your phone now. That's not necessarily a new thing, but at 4.0 capabilities. So, a lot of times you'll see these open source models and they're like, they're not frontier, they're not 5.2, but they are very capable 4.0. So the reality is too, what this probably will push is for those people who just really love the 4.0 experience, the flip side, maybe a positive of this is, hey, you can probably run this for free locally forever. At this point, there's probably some model that will suffice for what you really liked about it, because some open source model now has reached that 4.0, 4 mini, 4.1 it was, 04 mini, whatever it is, capabilities on a much smaller model set, because this is just sort of the pattern we see. So, is everybody going to do that? I don't know, but I'm just saying it's possible.
Yeah, but part of that is OpenAI's memory, right? And the ability to look back, right? Like, you can do this. You just did that last time with this other project you had at work, right? Like those kinds of things. But we'll see. We definitely will see what's happening. Gwen brings up a point that we should highlight. Will this be an issue for custom GPTs? Do other LLMs have as many issues with updates as OpenAI? I don't know that other LLMs have as many issues, but they also don't have as many users, right? OpenAI is still the dominant user base. But if you haven't upgraded your custom GPT, if 4.0 is still the recommended model, yes, you should look at that and see if it functions with 5.2, particularly because you're given a heads up and you can automatically use the 5.2 now and test it. Good point.
Cool. I have an OpenAI weave that weaves further into Anthropic, because it's really going to come together as a bit of a succession of bad news items for Anthropic. So the first one is that, OpenAI is in the midst of doing a major round, around $100 billion raised in order to fund their capital expansion and further model development. And it's justified to invest that level of money if that 1 billion number of monthly active users, which is what they're approximating, right? If that starts to monetize better across a range of products that Fiji Simo, as the president of product at OpenAI, is successful in delivering more and more things. So Amazon, which previously was an investor in Anthropic and still is, right? They own a piece of Anthropic. They're negotiating for a potential half of that $100 billion position that's being added to the cap table of OpenAI, and at around a $750 to $800 billion valuation, because of the scale of OpenAI and its leadership in the space in some respects. And of course, they have competition with Anthropic particularly, and also Gemini. So OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has been talking to the CEO of Amazon about this, and part of that negotiation is about OpenAI using Amazon's Trainium chips as part of that deal. So all of this is, despite our earlier estimation that Amazon was really a proponent of Anthropic, having brought Anthropic's models onto their platforms earlier. Anyway, so then that's one little bit of, okay, you're no longer the darling Anthropic, we're going to put a ton of money behind OpenAI coming from Amazon. The second thing is that Anthropic and the Pentagon were in a negotiation to do a $200 million contract, but Anthropic held the line on guardrails to prevent autonomous weapons targeting and domestic surveillance. And by refusing that, they lost that deal. Okay, so
I'll tell you something.
But there's two sides to that little bit of news. One is, oh, poor Anthropic. They're guarding their principles, but we appreciate that. And maybe they're not going to get that 200 million, which is a drop in the bucket, really, against they're running in the billions now of revenue. So that's not going to damage their overall revenue picture. But what about the fact that the government is wanting to do domestic surveillance and autonomous weapons development, and that has to be allowed in their AI model contracts. Okay, so the third strike for poor old Anthropic, and I'm saying that in a flippant way because I think Anthropic's going to come out a winner in many ways in this market space. Music publishers, including Universal Music Group, which is a big player in music publishing, they've sued Anthropic for $3 billion, alleging the company pirated over 20,000 songs to train Claude. Now, I didn't think of Claude as having anything whatever to do with image, video, or music. So I think it's really kind of accidental. And here's why I think that. The discovery process in this lawsuit revealed that one of the co-founders of Anthropic, Benjamin Mann, did a BitTorrent download of 5 million pirated books, not music, pirated books in 2021 with CEO authorization. So they were doing not such good things. Now, in respect of some of those other lawsuits that Anthropic has faced, they settled one of them for $1.5 billion. So Universal Music and a couple of other music publishers collaborating on this $3 billion lawsuit means that they're probably going to get a few $1 billion. And, rightly so, I think, that money should then go off to the artists, one would think, but I doubt that's going to happen very directly. Might, that's possible. But anyway, it was interesting that one of the co-founders was actually using BitTorrent to download all these things, and they had agreed to do that as part of the way of accessing enough data to do training. But that was on books. That was not on music. So Anthropic may be able to say, hey, we might have accidentally had our crawlers grab some music, but we didn't even bother tuning for music generation.
No, because it's what
doing song lyrics and all that other stuff, I'm sure.
Right. It's the lyrics, right? It was the text content, because Anthropic is not doing video or music generation or any of those things. And the irony that I think is hilarious is that Anthropic refuses repeatedly when I want to do a parody lyric of something. It will not give me the actual lyrics. I say, I can go and get them. Google will give me the actual lyrics. It's like, you do that. Come back, give me the lyrics, and then we'll make the parody. I'm happy for that, but I'm not giving you lyrics. That's not okay.
So I think anyway, the bottom line on this is I think, while there might have been at the early stages, in the BitTorrent example, there might have been some nefarious action. I think they've set that all aside, and they're really trying to operate in a principled way going forward.
Yes.
My weave off of that would be the news you guys might already cover, because I think it's a day or two old, but Elon Musk saying he might be trying to consolidate XAI and SpaceX, because that makes sense. But also, here's my, you have that message of Anthropic saying we won't do it, and it's like,
I will.
Elon Musk is like, you called. You said, did we say something about autonomous weapons? I just happen to have all this junk on XAI, and I also have a rocket company. I might be your guy. I might be your guy for this contract, along with Palantir and all the others that are, in that space or whatever. So, we will. It's not as if the government will not get the contract that they want with somebody will be all too happy to do that. But hey, moral victory, great for Anthropic that they are standing on the ground. I agree. Like Anthropic, look, they're not just playing in the US space, which is volatile right now. Holy moly, right? We have a lot going on in the United States, and the world is watching and wants to know what we're doing from a political standpoint, which we don't have to get into, but it does affect these big companies and how they work. And if you're Anthropic and you see a path forward for building your enterprise businesses, that might sound like a moral win, but it also could be a very, very big financial, the right move financially for them as a company because the world is watching, and the world is going to have an opinion on who they get in bed with, as would any company, as well as the public. And they're going to have an opinion on that too. And what better place for Anthropic to be sitting as on top of the moral high ground? So,
and there's news about that today, actually. So while Anthropic lost the military contract for the US, it won the gov.uk contract for science, innovation, and technology to be their AI powered assistant, right? So
I have an Elon Musk
world.
Let's weave to Elon Musk. So here's the lead into it. You know, Sora was an amazing accomplishment, and we all, jumped on Sora, and Sora downloads skyrocketed. I think there were 100,000 installs on the first day, and it went up into the millions. But downloads dropped 32% in December and 45% in January. Stronger competition is the reason. And you've got Gemini's VO3. You've got Meta's Vibes. This is another thing that's kind of taking away from the dramatic interest in Sora. And importantly, Grok Imagine is now topping the leaderboards on artificial analysis, text and image to video leaderboards. It's at number 1 now. And it comes just behind VO3 and Sora Pro in Ella Marina's video arena. So Grok Imagine is really up there at the top of the charts, and it's dramatically cheaper than anything else. So they just released an API for the Grok Imagine service. It costs $4.20 per minute with audio included. And that compares to VO3 at $12 a minute and Sora 2 Pro at $30 a minute. But it beats them, or not, it actually doesn't beat those two. The Sora Pro is actually going to beat it marginally. But you can see how Elon Musk is going to I was going to say steal. He's not stealing. He's providing a serious quality product. He's going to take share away from VO3 and Sora 2 Pro because of the dramatically lower cost and very high quality of Grok Imagine.
I could see that.
He won't for like the Sora Pro and Cinematic on Higgsfield. I don't remember what the model is behind that. And Runway are like studios thing of choice, but Grok will definitely allow an indie team with an idea, right, to make real strides toward things. We didn't mention it, I think, but there is the first time an AI animated short debuted at a film festival that wasn't an AI film festival happened at Sundance. It was made by it came out of Google, right? And their team made I think it's the neighbors upstairs, the upstairs neighbors, something like that. And it's very cool. So like these things are moving. It wasn't it's an animated short, right? So it's a stylized cartoon graphic kind of thing. So it's not human expressions and those kinds of things, but absolutely.
Yeah.
Greg's saying, and then Comic-Con bans AI. Greg, I agree with you. That's a short-term play, right? That's not going to last. I don't believe that'll last. I think that just appeases people today. But yeah, good point on that is that, Comic-Con is going to have AI generated content in the future. I don't know how many years that'll take, but it's definitely going to happen.
Comic-Con bans AI in like artists who are creating content for people to like get their signature on or buy this artist's fan art from something. I suspect that if the neighbors upstairs or the upstairs neighbors became like a fan favorite and like needed a Comic-Con thing, that would be a different thing, right? That's
Mm.
that's now a universe that people are fans of who want to go and engage in Comic-Con kind of activities. I think the Comic-Con banning AI is much more about we're not letting human artists, human fan art compare human drawn fan art or created fan art compete with human AI drawn fan art, that kind of stuff. That's my sense of it.
I mean, yeah. So you're thinking in time, maybe it's not Comic-Con, but there is a convention for this type of content, I guess. If I'm hearing you right.
Yeah. And I think, go, Andy.
I was just going to say that the same artist studio, and it's a, it's like, these are, I don't remember what the name of the company is, but the same artist studio that produced this Sundance film, initial presentation of a completely AI generated film. They also have created a sort of a imagined documentary image, video, and presentation of the American Revolution. And they're dropping on Times. Here it is. It's on YouTube. If you go to Time, the magazine / digital company that used to be the Weekly Circular, Time has on this day in 1776.
Yes.
They start with January 1, and then apparently they drop every day. So there's, I think, already in that collection, there's 30 days of the American Revolution, all AI generated and indistinguishable from.
Are they?
Yeah, check it out. I mean, I'm looking at an image on the screen right now. It's almost indistinguishable from a filmed production where the period costumes are all correct and so on. So if you want to get a taste of what that AI generated, high-end film production looks like, go to Time's feed on YouTube and check it out.
I'm definitely going to do that. That sounds cool, actually.
And let me clarify. Dear Upstairs Neighbors is the name of the film. The Neighbors Upstairs is apparently a horrible horror movie, so don't go there if you're looking for this.
I mean, at least it's just a horror movie. Sometimes that goes way differently when you give somebody and you're like, don't go there, don't go there, don't search that, on it. That's funny. Man, I've had something else I was going to say on everything you guys are saying. I lost my train of thought. Anyway, what else? Anything else before we wrap it up for the week?
No, that was a good one.
Yeah. Oh, I know what I was going to say, but it was more like, hey, I want to bring this up next week because we were just talking about AI video, which I don't know that we've necessarily talked a ton about recently on the show. I don't know a lot of a deep dive necessarily, but I have a couple TikTok accounts, and it is very cool what this guy is doing on his TikTok feed. And what I'm seeing is he comes up with a storyboard essentially out maybe with AI or whatever, and then uses real world actors or just people he knows, right? Whatever. And objects to train the AI and what it needs to do. An example of that would be, it's showing it side by side and it's like sort of this rundown tank. Somebody's walking down a street and it's this rundown tank. The actual video of that is somebody just brushing their hand against a wall, but it's down a long alley. Now everything from the real version is gone in the AI version. The person is different, all of that, right? But that movement is training the AI on the shot, the angle, probably a lot more that's above my understanding of film and movie making that I'm sure Jyunmi could geek out on. But it's very cool to see that. So they're using like arches from a building to set up the shot for whatever it is they want. I just like this idea. Of course, in my head, I go right to like college students do this, but I like this idea of I'm wearing my UGA shirt, so I'll say Georgia. People in Athens who know how to do this or are interested in this type of filmmaking, and they're going around Athens and into old campus, which has 1700s buildings on it and stuff like that. Speaking of, and they're catching architecture right a certain way, and they're using that to inform the next shot that they want to do with AI. It's very, very cool. And I hadn't seen anything really like this other than this particular TikTok account. So at some point next week, I want to bring that up and just have a conversation about it because, and do a little bit of show and tell on it, because I think it's very cool. It's a different way of creating new AI videos by using physical boundaries, objects, angles, and all that to inform what the AI should do. Although the AI, unless they show them side by side, you would never know that one informed the other, which I think is even the cooler part about it, is it's not obvious at all. Walls or tanks, the whole thing.
So there've been this kind of thing like for about a year moving toward, and it's just getting so much better. Like you can see on people's like YouTube feeds about how to create things that like they build the machine gun out of like foam core or something, or like it's a little kid machine gun and they are performing what's happening, and then they're able to drop that performance in a background. Also, we didn't really mention Jyunmi from Google. We'll talk more about that next week. But that is also informing this, because now you can build a whole world and then drop the character in, and then have the camera angle follow that character as first person viewing the world that you've created, or third person. So you're like a drone following your main character along as it's moving through the world. It's very cool. And there's a post that I will post in the community. And let me get the name. It's Bilawal Sidhu says one of the wildest emergent capabilities of Genie 3 is that maps actually work. So they are doing first person, holding a GPS or holding a I don't know what it is, but if you walk around woods, you have a map thing that attaches to the satellite. I don't do that, so I don't know what that machine is called, but you see a map on it, and as Genie is building this display, the map coordinates shift. Like that turns the way it normally would. Like just really cool stuff.
Yeah. By the way, I don't have more to say on it other than all of a sudden I started getting new emails from Showrunner. You guys remember Showrunner? It was like the idea was that you could create maybe a year or two ago at this point. They came onto the scene. We were talking about them on the show, and sort of like South Park like cartoons is what they were creating. And it was sort of like you can create your own sitcom. Well, they released their own sitcom. I don't know the name of it. But all of a sudden, out of the blue, I just started getting update emails from Showrunner from way, way back when I got on a wait list. I mean, I'm talking about like probably 2 years ago. Speaking of 650 episodes, this is a while ago, but sort of a blast from the past as far as talking about AI. So I want to, at some point, maybe when we have a whole show, we talk a little bit more about AI and video, maybe bring this up as well, because I'm interested here about Genie. I don't know anything about that and what you've just been saying, Beth. So that's interesting to me. Plus, I'll get this TikTok and share some of what that creator is doing, and then maybe we can dive into Showrunner and see what they're up to and what their new sitcom or whatever their show is, because that was something that they were promoting on the email. So all interesting stuff. All sorts of fun stuff to do over the weekend. I will be continuing my quest to build and get to an MVP product by Feb 1, which I am running out of days with Claude Code. But yep,
2 more days.
We'll
Today
keep
and
pushing.
tomorrow.
I have a weekend, so we'll see how far I can get on this. But that's it for today, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Here's to 650 more episodes of the Daily AI Show for the next few years. And here's to all of y'all in the comments, or simply just listening to us and enjoying what you hear and spending a little bit of time with us, day in and day out while you're on your commutes or walks or however it is that you're listening to us right now. We appreciate all of you. Even if we just don't know who you are, we know you're out there. We can see the analytics. We can see that we're growing across all platforms, and we appreciate you. So with that, we'll sign off for the weekend, or the week rather. Don't forget about the Conundrum episode tomorrow, dropping at 10 a.m. and the newsletter will go out at 8 a.m. But you got to get on that list. So if you want to get on the newsletter list, head over to
8 a.m.
the
Sunday.
What I say?
Yeah. You just said it's going out at 8 a.m. after saying that tomorrow the Conundrum comes out.
Yes, sorry. Sunday. Thank you, Andy. But you have to sign up was my point to that. So go to thedailyishow.com to get on that email list. It's free. So if that's something you're curious about, do it. All right. Have a great day, guys. We'll see you back on Monday. Bye.